The revolution is of the mind.
Technology will empower our future or run us over. How we choose to think will determine our fate.
Better thoughts, better life. Welcome to Thought Hacking with Scott Mitchell.
So welcome. Hey, I want to welcome you to another episode of Thought Hacking. And we have an amazing guest today. This is Scott Mitchell, and I am here with William Branum. He is a 26-year veteran of the Navy SEALs. He is the owner and founder of Naked Warrior Recovery. And he is also an incredible speaker, an incredible business coach. And he also is involved with a lot of philanthropy as well. Things like charities like 22-0 and other, profound things that are out there we'll talk about later. But this is an amazing human being, and I'm really proud to and honored to be here with William Branum. So welcome.
Thanks for having me on here. I'm stoked to be here.
Yeah, man.
I almost called you Steve earlier because we were talking last night. So I could slip up somewhere in there.
That's so funny. Yeah, we were messing around with something. Somebody couldn't remember my name the other day, and they kept joking me, calling me Steve, so they'd remember it was Scott. So it's hilarious, man. Now I messed you up.
But I may do it just because.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Yeah, so the thing about him, the other day I was, basically I was going to challenge him to a push-up contest because I've been working out a little bit, and, I thought he probably could do a couple push-ups. So I just asked him, how many push-ups can you do? And his response was simply, all of them. And I decided not to challenge him to a push-up contest for that. Yeah. That's
you didn't see me before I spoke the other day. I just knocked out 50 in the back of the room just because. You had that little nervous energy, just get it out real quick.
So that's a good, right before you speak trick. Just go up and do some 50 push-ups before you, and then you get right in the zone, and then you can.
It's
give
much
your
easier
talk.
Yeah. I mean, it works for me. So
yeah, that's awesome. Well, I got to hear a little bit of your story, and we've become friends now. And I think I'd love for you to share kind of your journey of how you got here and how you became a Navy SEAL, because I think it's an amazing story. So tell us about that.
So God created the heavens and the earth, and then there's some other stuff happened, and then I joined the Navy. So I grew up in a little town outside of Meridian, Mississippi. There's not a lot going on down there. I was dirt poor. I was called poor white trash a lot, country bumpkin, which is weird by people in Mississippi calling me country bumpkin or poor white trash. But we were extremely poor. We had 3 channels, there were no cable, nothing like that. My grandparents had cable, so it was cool to go watch their 12 channels. But in my house, you had rabbit ears and black and white TV and 2 knobs and the whole thing. I was heavily involved in the Boy Scouts. I became an Eagle Scout. I went to the National Jamboree one year. It was the summer between my 11th and 12th grade of high school, and the Boy Scout Association paid for me to go because they knew I was poor, but they paid for me to go because I was so involved in the Boy Scouts. And so I went there and I met a kid who said, he already had his whole life sort of planned out in front of him. He was a really good swimmer. He was like, when I graduate from high school, I'm going to go to the Naval Academy, and then I'm going to fly F-14 Tomcats, and then I'm going to become a Navy SEAL. I'm like, that's cool. I want to do that. What's a Navy SEAL? And so he explained to me it's the hardest military training in the world. It's, they jump out of airplanes, they blow stuff up, they shoot guns, they scuba dive, they all do all these other things. I'm like, that's awesome. That's what I want to do. Because I always knew I wanted to be part of some sort of small elite military organization, although I had no idea what that was. I was thinking maybe I'll join the Marine Corps and become a scout sniper. I thought that was cool. Or maybe become a Green Beret because John Wayne was a Green Beret in Vietnam, at least in the movie Green Beret. John Rambo was an Army Ranger. So all of that stuff resonated with me. Small unit, elite military operations. I had no idea what a Navy SEAL was, but I was attracted to the water. The scuba diving piece of it, because, in my 3 channels that I grew up, one of them had, National Geographic shows on, and I always liked being underwater, or the idea of being underwater. I don't like being underwater anymore that much. They'll beat that right out of you. So I come back from that National Jamboree, and a week later, the Navy recruiter calls my house. Just cold call. Hey man, have you ever thought about joining the Navy? Up until that point, I swore I would never join the Navy because, number one, they have the ugliest uniforms. Back in the day, they wore dungarees. You look like you just got out of prison. Blue shirt, bell-bottom jeans, boondockers, which are these weird boot things, and a white Dixie cup, like Popeye looking hat. Not attractive. The Marine Corps had really cool looking uniforms, and the commercials had them fighting dragons with swords and shields. So that was like a much more, in the direction I wanted to go. I also had no real athletic talents. My talents, my athletic talents, if you like, I don't have real good hand-eye coordination. I can shoot fine. I do okay with that. Like I can't throw a ball, catch a ball. I suck at all of that stuff. Hit a ball. Dribble a ball, like all the ball sports, I suck at all of them. That's okay. I could run all right, swim okay, but I was never on any of those. We didn't have those things when I was in high school, a little backwoods public school. And so anyway, the Navy recruiter said, "Hey man, have you ever thought about joining the Navy?" I was like, "Oh yeah, I want to go to the Naval Academy. I want to fly F-14 Tomcats, and I want to become a Navy SEAL." He was like, "Awesome, come on down here tomorrow, let's have a conversation." They showed me this super cheesy recruiting video. This was back in the 90s, like 91, I think. And I thought that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. If I looked at that video today, I'd be like, really? No one would fall for this. This is a trick. Like a third grader can make a better video than this. But anyway, so I joined the Navy before I graduated high school. I went to boot camp about 2 weeks after I graduated high school. I took the SEAL screening test the first time in boot camp, and I failed it. And the lesson that I learned from that, when I looked back on it, is I was focusing on the minimum standard. And I think most people focus on the minimum standard. No one focuses on destroying the standard.
Mm.
The standards are there for a reason. But most of us are only looking at the minimum number. And that's what I was doing. So, the test it's a 500-yard swim with a side stroke or breaststroke. I think it was 52 push-ups, 60 sit-ups, 7 pull-ups, and a 1.5 mile run in boots and long pants in 12 and a half minutes. It's not that hard to do. At least when I look back on it now, I'm like, how did I fail that? That's silly. But I was focusing on those 52 push-ups. I could do 52 push-ups. I got to 37 and then was like 37. Okay, I'm done. I can't do anymore. So I failed it. Then I made some other errors, tactical errors that landed me on a ship in Yokosuka, Japan. And because of a school that I went to. And when my time on that ship was up, and I had passed the SEAL screening test, I called the guy that was in charge of sending me to the next duty station. And I said, "Hey, man, I just want to let you know that I'm going to put a package in. I want to become a Navy SEAL, all this other stuff." And he's like, "That's great that you want to do that, but I'm not going to let you go." I was like, "Well, why not?" He said, "Well, that school that you went to, this other school that you went to get in better shape, because you went to that school, you are more critical to the Navy than becoming a Navy SEAL with this job that you have." And I was like, "Well, I didn't join the Navy to be on a big, great floaty thing out here in the ocean. I joined the Navy to become a Navy SEAL." He's like, "Sorry, not going to let you go." So I submitted my package anyway. I got letters of recommendation. Everybody said, "Yeah, go," except for that one guy. He still said no. I called the SEAL recruiters. They're like, "Your guy has to let you go." And so he refused to. I said, "Well, what if I go to Buds and I don't make it? You got me back. No big deal. But if you don't let me go, I'm going to get out of the Navy." He was like, "Well, then get out." He called my bluff, essentially.
Wow.
So fast forward, we get the word that the chief of naval operations is coming to our ship in Yokosuka, Japan. He didn't go to any other ship. And just to kind of put some levity on who the chief of naval operations is, he's the most senior person in the Navy, the end. The only people more senior to him is the Secretary of Defense and the President of the United States. It's the fucking man. So he comes to my ship. He has CNO's call. He gives, "This is my plan for the Navy, blah, blah, blah. Does anyone have any questions?" I raised my hand and I was like, "Yeah, I have a question." He's like, "Yes." I said, "Yeah, I joined the Navy to become a Navy SEAL. My detailer won't let me go. He says I'm too critical because of my job. I think I deserve a chance to go. What do you think?" He turns to my commanding officer and he's like, "Is he a good guy?" He was like, "Yeah, he was a sailor of the quarter this quarter, which is employee of the month." So he turns back to me. He's like, "Check, you'll be in the first class after your PRD, which is planned rotational date. 6 weeks later, I'm off to California to start SEAL training."
Wow, that's some great guts there too.
I mean, or ignorance or what, I have no idea. Like I was like, this is what I had a mission.
Yeah.
This was my mission, to become a Navy SEAL. So I get to Buds. I find out that I probably should have trained a lot more prior to showing up, but whatever, it is what it is. And I get injured. So I get rolled back, no big deal. And then I get injured again. And they're like, well, this is your second time, we're going to kick you out. And I'm like, hold on. Like, so you go before a board. Like the first guy says, we're going to kick you out. I still remember that guy today. I remember when he became the CO of SEAL Team 4, and I wanted to hunt him down and beat him up. But it was a good thing, because it was just more drive for me to not fail or not get hurt again or not whatever. So then I went to the second guy who's going to make the final decision. And he's like, we're recommending you go back to the fleet. You clearly didn't show up. You've been injured twice. I'm like, but if I leave, and I start crying. I mean, if I leave, I may never get a chance to come back again. Told him the story about the CNO, and the CNO had just killed himself.
Wow.
The same guy who said, yeah, you can go to Buds, killed himself earlier that year, like just like a few weeks prior to. And I was like, I may never get another chance to go. And so he said, go stand outside. I'm on my crutches. I'm like crying. I see my class come in. They're all wet and sandy and gross. And all I want to do is be miserable with those guys. And he comes back like 4 hours later. And he's like, what are you doing here? I said, you told me to stand outside. He was like, go check in. You'll be in the next class. If you get hurt again, you're out of here. So go heal up and get started. So I went back. I never healed up. I started the next class. I passed enough evolutions. Like I was just gimping. Like my leg just didn't work. No, there was no rhyme or reason why, but I iced it, and I was taking 1,600 milligrams of ibuprofen 3 times a day or more, 4 times a day for swelling and pain and whatever. And I just ran and kept up as best I could. And, I got really strong because I fell back on runs. But I remember one day, I only had to pass one 4-mile timed run to make it, to get to Hell Week. And I remember, I don't know what happened, but there was something that clicked in my mind. I remember staying back from lunch to get the boats ready for the evolution that we were going to do after the 4-mile timed run, because your day is just full of, stuff. And, when you go to breakfast, lunch, and dinner, it's a mile run. You run as a group to the chow hall, you eat, you run a mile back. So I stayed back for lunch, and I don't know what it was, but I just remember saying, I'm going to fucking crush this run. I don't know what made me, what put me there. Maybe it was just the pressure of do or die right now. But I just woke up that morning, and it was like, it resonated with me all day. I'm going to fucking crush that run. And I went out there and I crushed it. And I was like, I can't even believe the time that I got. Like guys in the class that were watching me just sort of gimp along, they were like, dude, how'd you do that? I'm like, I don't know. It was just in me today. And so it was enough for me to start Hell Week. I went into Hell Week, broken. I came out of Hell Week healed. Super weird. But it was just my left knee just wouldn't hold any weight. I don't know why. It just wouldn't. But I told this story the other day, but I'll share it again with for your people. So when I was in Hell Week, I noticed that one boat crew, and just to kind of back up, Hell Week is 5.5 days. It's the 5th week of training. You don't sleep the whole week. You're cold, you're wet, you're miserable. And you lose about 70% of the people from day one to the day Hell Week starts. And then during Hell Week, you lose 70% of whoever's left over. So that's sort of the attrition of the first phase of SEAL training. So I saw this one boat crew. I think I was in boat crew 4 or 5, with guys that I liked. And I saw this one boat crew 3, they just were winning every race from Sunday night to Monday morning to Monday afternoon. And I'm like, I want to be in that boat crew, because the guys that were in the boat crew that I was in, guys were quitting. They didn't want to be here. They didn't want to try to win races. They were just being lazy and just kind of being mediocre, getting through or quitting. And I was like, I don't want to be surrounded by mediocrity. I want to be surrounded by awesome. Those guys are fucking winning everything. I want to be in that boat crew. So Monday evening before dinner, we had to reshuffle boat crews because we had lost a lot of people. Like there was 4 people in some boat crews, 7 in others. So they reshuffled to make it even again. And so there's 7 guys in each boat crew. So that we lined up in a height line because it's all based on height. And I was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's boat crew 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll be number 5, 6, 7 for boat crew 3. And even if I wasn't quite tall enough, I like piled a little sand under my feet to make sure that I was a little taller to be in that boat crew. And what I noticed in that boat crew is there were no superstars. Everybody was just average Joe. But what made us extraordinary is everyone had the desire to win. None of us ever talked about it. All we talked about was, let's go, let's get in front of that next boat. Let's get in front of, like we took it one boat at a time. So it didn't matter if it was a race or not. If we were going to chow or we were, paddling around Coronado Island. If we were carrying logs, it didn't matter what we were doing. We always got to the front. We were always the first one there. So we could start at the back, and the mediocre mind would say, we'll just stay behind the boat that's in front of us. The guys in that boat crew, their desire was, if there was a 1-inch gap between the boat in front of them and the boat that was in front of us and the boat that was in front of them, if there was a gap, we went around them, we ran around them and filled that gap. And we filled the next gap, and we filled the next gap, and we filled the next gap until we were in the front every single time. And one of the thing that I realized later on is the instructors never even recognized us. They didn't know we were there. They didn't realize that we were winning. I knew we were winning or Boat Crew 3 was winning from day one because I wanted to be surrounded by winners. The instructors were all focused on Boat Crew 1, who were all the big, strong guys. They're supposed to be the ones winning all the time. They're bigger, they're stronger, they're whatever. They have the advantage. We were beating them nonstop. And it wasn't until Thursday night of Hell Week when so Thursday night, you do this thing called Around the World. Coronado Island, we paddle out, we paddle down the beach, we paddle back in to where the instructors are set up. And every time we came in, we were the first boat crew. And then the instructors were like, what boat crew is this? Boat crew 3. Okay, go sit down. Wait for everyone else to get there. So we got a little break. The next race. What boat crew is this? Boat crew 3. After 3 or 4 or 5 times of doing that boat crew 3, they're like, who the fuck is boat crew 3? Where did you guys come from? And they're like, boat crew 1, why are these guys beating you? So now they started everyone, they're being mediocre. And so, one of the things I said the other day is you have 2 choices when you're in SEAL training. You can quit or you can keep going. If you decide to keep going, you have another choice. You can keep going and be mediocre, or you can keep going and be fucking awesome. Do you want to be mediocre or do you want to be fucking awesome? I choose to be fucking awesome. So again, that was something that I learned in retrospect. I didn't realize that while going through training. It was when I looked back on it, especially now in this weird world of entrepreneurship and losing. I always say that, my transition from the SEAL teams to civilian life is the hardest military mission I've ever been on. I've been on a few missions. This is the fucking hardest, hands down. And so what I do now is I'm looking for my new boat crew. I'm looking to build my new SEAL team. I'm building Boat Crew 3 once again.
So what did you learn about life and about yourself from the time you had in the SEALs?
Nothing is easy and nothing is free. There's no such thing as entitlement. Like I see this weird entitlement thing in the world now. It's like kind of being shoved down our throat. And really at the end of the day, if you want anything, you have to work for it. You need to put a plan in place and go fucking execute that plan. It's not gonna be easy. I mean, just like that first business I started, it was a failure. Right. But I was used to winning up until that point. I haven't been humbled for a long time. It sucked at the time, but today I'm grateful for that, for being humbled. Today I'm, we've talked about this, several times this week. Now I go out and I, create artificial hardship. I create these. Yeah, it's a really profound concept. These other, I go out and plan and execute really hard physical challenges. I go and put people through really hard physical challenges. Some of them are short, some of them are long. Because at the end of the day, life is going to eat you alive if you put the blinders on and don't pay attention.
You have this uncanny ability to literally deal with pain and suffering and not let it slow you down or stop you toward whatever you're going toward. I mean, obviously it comes from your experience, but can you share with others, how did you develop that mentality? Because when it gets tough, it gets painful, it sucks. How do you stay on mission?
That's a great question. It's really easy to feel sorry for yourself. Really easy to say, "Hey, I don't feel like doing that today." I would argue that me specifically, I potentially will put my head down and grind to an end or not quit to a fault.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've been in relationships where I've stayed in it too long.
Right.
So it became ultra toxic. So I've had to like kind of fix my own mindset. Sometimes I'm too dumb to quit. So there's still a lot of learning in there, but really at the end of the day, I wake up and I'm like, I don't feel like working out. I just put but I prepare the night before. Like I put my shoes as if I'm wearing them. I put my shorts or my pants right there on the ground. I lay my shirt out like as if I'm a person laying on the ground. And when I wake up in the morning, I put the shorts, the shirt, the shoes on, and I walk out. There's no decision, anything. There's no time for me to like really think about it. And I go and I execute something immediately. And when I do that, when the rest of the day gets hard, I've already done something really hard, which is getting my ass out of bed and going and doing some sort of workout. Yep. Even if I just go for a walk. Like my body is broken. I'm old. I don't look it. I know I don't look it. But it takes me a long time to kind of get stuff going. And I go out and I do really extremely hard things. And I do that to keep myself, one, humble, but also to increase my resiliency for when life punches me in the face. Yeah. Because life is going to punch every one of us in the face.
You're training your psychology, really. You're training your whole mindset to deal with this adversity.
And I think, I have been complacent enough times in my life. We get really good at doing something. And for me, every time that I was complacent, I had bad shit happen to me, whether it was in leadership or life or whatever. My complacency was my problem. And so I have to keep challenging myself so that I never become complacent again. Yeah. I've learned those lessons the hard way. Yeah. I learned through failure, and I'm really fucking good at failing. But yeah, I can think of so many. In combat, we became complacent. We lost guys. In just weird leadership roles, I became complacent. Almost got fired. In business, I became complacent. Almost first business. Yeah. I was complacent. I absolutely was complacent. I was like, how hard can it be? I deserve success. Fuck you and you deserve anything. Right. You don't deserve anything. I don't deserve anything. Right. So go work for that success.
Yeah. So tell me about this idea of artificial hardship, because I think I talk about artificial scarcity in a similar way, but I think this is a really profound concept you're onto here, because you're intentionally making something really hard that doesn't have to be, for the sole purpose of making it hard to prepare you. So talk about, what do you do to do that? And yeah, tell me more about that.
Yeah. So really it was brought to me. Because I knew that I was becoming complacent about some different things. And, I started speaking, and I spoke at an organization, and one of the guy that ran the organization was like, "Hey, I want you to come and give that presentation at this thing that we're doing. It's called Man-Made." I'm like, "Okay, check." So I came out there. I was like, "I really like what you guys are doing. You're like working out really hard. You're not telling us when the evolution is going to end. We're just going to keep going until someone throws up or whatever it is." And then we started having this conversation about like artificial hardship. Like, why are we doing this? Why do you work out? To look good. I want to look good naked. I want to be able to, run a 4-minute mile. I want to be able to lift a certain amount of weight. No, really, why are you working out? To be strong. Why? Why is it important to be strong? Oh, what if it's like I need to fucking lift a car off of a kid or something.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, how do you get there? You go to the gym and you work out. Okay, so what about other hard things that happen in your life? I've been through a lot of personally hard things in my life. Still go through them. But I know that the hardships that I've been through, the physical hardships that I put myself through, whether it was through my occupation or just through sheer tenacity, those me going through those very hard things, it's not just a physical thing.
Mm-hmm.
People ask me all the time, like, is SEAL training more physical or more mental? I mean, it's 100% of both.
Mm-hmm.
It's 100% physical and it's 100% mental,
Mm-hmm.
and psychological and spiritual and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
You don't half-ass it. So going and doing those hard things, those hard physical things, it's very easy to slow down or quit.
Mm-hmm.
That's the mental piece of it. You're still working through that hardship. So then you become more mentally resilient.
Mm-hmm.
You become more psychologically resilient. I earlier this year, we went and hiked the Grand Canyon rim to rim to rim. And we had a speaker come out and speak to us. I forgot the guy's name. He has a great name that's super easy to remember, and I keep forgetting it. But he wrote a book called The Comfort Crisis.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, one of the things he said to us was, fatigue is an emotion. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, I wrote that down. I was like, what do you mean? Fatigue is an emotion.
Mm-hmm.
No, fatigue is when you get tired. No, it's actually not. Fatigue is, yes, your body is getting tired, but you feel tired.
Mm-hmm.
You feel fatigued. You feel love. You feel hate. You feel anger. You feel tired. It's an emotion.
Right.
It is an emotion based on a physical response of the body.
Mm-hmm.
You have to work through that fatigue now. You work through that feeling of tiredness. And oftentimes you work through that feeling of tiredness, you get a second wind, then you start feeling good again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Fatigue is an emotion. So by doing hard things, you tap into the emotional part of your brain, the mental part of your brain, and you learn how to work through that, how to fight past that feeling of
Mm-hmm.
fatigue, how to work out those things. And when you start working out those things and figuring those things out, again, that's hard. It's a mental process. It's physical, but it's it's emotional.
Mm-hmm.
When those physical, mental, and emotional things happen in your life, you've already dealt with hardship.
Mm-hmm.
So it's easier to handle those things. It doesn't mean that they're not going to be hard.
Right.
Life is hard. The shit that happens to us in life is hard. But when we do physically hard things, when we challenge ourselves, when we give ourselves these artificial hardships, we become more resilient to the real hardships that life throws at us.
Do you find that going through this challenge and intentionally kind of building your muscle, your ability to be uncomfortable, do you feel very comfortable in uncomfortable?
I don't think I'm ever comfortable being uncomfortable. Like
Mhm.
that's a saying, like, get comfortable being uncomfortable. So yeah, actually, maybe I am. It's, embrace the suck. There's a lot of different phrases out there for it. And actually, yes, I do. Now that I'm,
Yeah.
thinking out loud. Yeah, I used to run a lot, and then I was like, running sucks. I hate running.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I started training for the Grand Canyon earlier this year, you need to put a significant number of miles on your legs to
Mm-hmm.
get ready for it, because it's 54 miles. We do it in a day.
Mm-hmm.
It
A lot
is-
of
it is-
elevation gain. Yeah.
there's about 20,000 feet
and
of
down.
elevation exchange.
Yep.
You start up high, you go down low, you go across, you go up high, you go back down low, and you climb out. And the thing about the Grand Canyon is the opposite of climbing a mountain, because last year we climbed the Grand Teton. You climb up, and then gravity helps you come down. Well,
Yeah.
the Grand Canyon, you start at the top, you go to the bottom, you go across, you go to the top again, you come back down, you go across, and then you have to climb your ass out of that hole.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to some dark places that last 9 miles out of the Grand Canyon. Like anger and hatred and feeling sorry for myself and like just pissed off. And eventually I just like put my head down. I told the story earlier. My headlamp was going out. I was feeling sorry. There were like 12 guys ahead of me, 2 guys behind me. And I was just like, fuck this, fuck that, fuck. And eventually I just like, my headlamp was going out. I'm like, my batteries are going to run out. I don't like the guy with the extra batteries is up there somewhere. I saw their little headlamps. I'm like, how am I ever going to catch up to them? The guys behind me are catching me. Totally feeling sorry for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually I just like put my head down. I looked at that 2-foot circle of my headlamp and I took the most tiny little steps that you could ever imagine.
Mm-hmm.
These baby steps. Now I wasn't taking big steps anymore. Like I thought that taking bigger steps would get me there faster. They actually were using more energy.
Yeah.
When I took the most, like I don't even think that my steps were as long as my foot is long.
Mm-hmm.
That was probably like a half of like probably 6-inch steps at a time, maybe 8 inches. I don't know. I wear a size 11 shoe. I'm sure I wasn't like taking full lengths of my own foot. But I just put my head down. I just looked at that round circle on the ground and I just went to the edge of it. Of course, it kept moving as I kept moving. So I just went to the edge of it over and over and over and over and over. And pretty soon I looked up and I caught 8 of the 12 guys that were in front of me and I passed them. And I was like, how did that even happen? But it's because I stopped comparing myself to everything else that was going on. I stopped feeling sorry for myself. And I just put my head down and I put one foot in front of the other. I took the most babyest steps possible known to man. And because I did that, that actually helped me build momentum to catch and pass all of those guys that were in front of me. Not all of them, because some of them were just fucking studs.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting. After that event, the next night, you know, again, this is all just men. That next night, you know, we're sitting around, you know, talking about gratitude and other things. And every man in that room, all, you know, very masculine men, every one of us were crying at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Like talking about how that hardship, how can you take that hardship and apply it to regular life?
Mm-hmm.
Because again, regular life is like, you know, relationships and business and, you know, parents and spouses and children and all the things that are good and bad and deaths and all this other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It all started coming up from, you know, we really kind of broke ourselves down and we're building ourselves back up through this hardship. And you know, after, you know, I've done this several times and I've learned like doing these really fucking hard things. Number one, putting something on the calendar that is going to be really hard. I have to be ready to go do that really hard thing.
Yeah.
I have to prepare myself physically, mentally, emotionally, because I'm going to be tested when I get there. And if I keep putting those things on the calendar, I continue to work really hard to achieve that thing on the calendar.
Mm-hmm.
But the second and third order effect of that thing on the calendar that I'm going to go to do that's really hard is preparing me for the other hardships of life.
Mm-hmm.
Again, relationships, divorce, children, deaths, whatever it is.
Do you have any tricks or tools you use to kind of like overcome the suck, so to speak? Like when you're in the hardship, do you play games in your mind to get through stuff? What do you do when you're facing that and there's a lot more to go and, you know, you're trying to deal with that? What do you have any tricks or tools you could share?
A lot of times music is a super helpful tool.
Mm-hmm.
When I work out, I usually put in like some gangster rap or something that like gets me all like motivated. Like I don't feel like working out. The music, the movement, you know, gets me going. I think sometimes just anger, hardship that's already happened to me. You know, I'm still mad about a lot of stuff, or maybe I'm not mad about things. Yeah, we'll just go with that. I'm still mad about things.
You're accessing powerful emotions you already have to leverage that emotion,
to bring
in the
it
moment.
out. And I do this like while working out. Sometimes I'd use it for other things.
Yeah.
Because I'm feeling down. I don't have the energy. Well, you do have the energy. You have everything that you need deep down inside. You just have to go find it.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because, you know, you see this a lot where we kind of think, well, you shouldn't, you know, like we're trying to be in these optimal states or whatever, and we're thinking about being positive about stuff. But sometimes these emotions like anger or frustration or a lot of the things we think are negative, they have a time and a place if we can use them appropriately 100%. To like help us like gain the leverage we need to just break through whatever's in the way.
You can control.
Yeah.
You can control you. You control the thoughts that you have. You can control the emotions that you have.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes I want to be fucking mad.
Yeah. Yeah. How does apply? So you've been in, you know, literal combat, people shooting at you.
Yeah.
How do you, in that situation, because you guys have to not only be dealing with that, but you have to make really important decisions. how do you quiet your mind or deal with the fear, the things that come up when there's bullets flying by you, to still focus in and make good decisions, make sure you're taking care of your team, be situationally aware, all of those things? How do you do that?
Um, I will say that the SEAL teams are the most well-trained soldiers
Mm.
on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And anyone that has been in any other special forces, I'm happy to have that discussion with you, and I will win. Because I've had that discussion with other friends of mine. There were Marine Raiders, they were Green Berets, they were Army Rangers, they were Air Force dudes. And so we, like, every block of training we do, we practice being in gunfights. We practice in making those hard decisions. We practice in stress and not like putting ourselves into the most stressful situations possible.
Mm-hmm.
I like thinking about leadership through the lens of a gunfight.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned this later on in my career by accident. So, one of the big blocks of training that we do where we practice being in a gunfight is land warfare. And so we'll start off very small, where we'll have like 4 guys, a leader, and 3 guys. And, they'll be walking along, and then the gunfight starts. We have targets that pop up. They shoot sound and fireballs at you, like the propane tanks. Little green army men pop up, so you can have a target to shoot at. You have the audible of like being shot at, and you see the muzzle flash. So it's fantastic training. We have, there's some new technology, and they just pop up all around. Like there's just a field full of them. And the training cadre, they have different scenarios set up so they can put them up, and the targets don't have to move. They can just go down here, but it pops up over here, like, bad guys maneuvering on you.
Right.
And so, we'll have these guys go out and get in the gunfight and figure out how to, like, what calls to make, how to read the terrain, read the enemy situation, read the team. And so what I like to do is when, they get a nice foundation of what they should know, how, like the young leaders in the team should know what to do. I'll put myself in next to that leader, and I'll say, I'm a new guy. I have a lot of experience in, overseas and in training. So I already know I generally know the right call to make.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times you have to let the gunfight mature before you start making a call. You need to really read the battlefield. What's really going on?
Mm-hmm. You have to become patient in a situation
correct.
that's like super emotional or intense, right?
Right.
Is there any kind of tool or technique you use in that moment?
It's just training. And
just
training. So I'm going to talk through this, and maybe something will come out, and maybe you can pull something out of this. So the gunfight will start. We're walking along. Gunfight starts. Contact left. Whatever it is, and everyone like starts. They take cover. They start shooting the targets, and the leader is supposed to make a call. A lot of times those new leaders in the SEAL teams, they're ready to be fucking Navy SEALs. They're out there like, I'm going to, do their job, shoot guns. But the leader's job is not to shoot. It's never to shoot. Occasionally it's to shoot. Generally it's not to shoot. His job is to lead.
Mm-hmm.
And so what will happen is he will like start shooting the targets. Maybe it's more than he was used to when he was working in, a 4-man unit. Now it's like 8 or 10 or 12. And so I will position myself next to him. I'm shooting the targets because I'm a senior guy. I don't get to shoot that much anymore. So every opportunity I get to shoot, I'm going to get out there and I'm going to shoot.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm evaluating the leader. Training guys are behind us. They're, running the scenarios. And I might say, what's the call, sir? And he'll stop shooting. He'll look around and he'll start shooting again. Hey, what's the call? He'll stop shooting. He'll look around. He's not really sure what to do. He'll start shooting again. So I might even say, I'll start. I could make the call. I already know what the call should be.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to see what he's going to say. And so I'll start elevating the stress on him. And I do this in business coaching as well. So I kind of talk through, leaderships and organizations, like if they want to like level someone up to the next position, or leadership is always about training your replacement. It's never about telling people what to do. Leadership is all about training your replacement. And oftentimes that requires a significant level of stress.
Mm-hmm.
So not in the beginning, slowly inoculate stress. So it's a lot of stress. So eventually we're 40, 50 guys in the woods, you know, with suppressors, night vision goggles, lasers, super fucking dangerous, making calls, moving all around the battlefield, you know, flanking one another, moving. Yeah. So anyway, so I'll start saying, what's a call? And now, what's a fucking call? We got to get out of here before we're going to fucking die. And then I turn back to the training cadre and I'll say, hey, make this really suck for us. And then they'll start putting people down. Oh, you're dead. You're dead. Oh, your leg is fucking blown off. You got to like, whatever. So now like super stressful, not just shoot, move, and communicate. Shoot, move, get the dead guys out, drag the bodies, do all. And then now like, so we get back and I'm like, okay, what happened? What should have the call been? And then we'll kind of talk about it. I'm like, okay, why are you shooting? Your job is not to shoot. Okay, check. We go back out. They do it again. Shoot, shoot, shoot. 3 or 4 times later, I'm like, okay, you get no more bullets. Give me your magazine. I give them 3 bullets. And they're like, wait, what? What am I supposed to do with this? You better have 3 fucking bullets when we're done.
Some artificial scarcity for you right there.
Right. And so now they're out there and the contact happens and they feel completely neutered. They're like, what the fuck do I do now? I'm a Navy SEAL. I'm supposed to be shooting. I'm supposed to be killing bad guys, laying waste to the enemy, la 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 la. Negative, sir. Your job is to lead. So now they're forced to not shoot. They're forced to read the enemy situation. What's going on? What's going on with the team? Where is everybody at? Okay, there's guys over there. There's guys over there. What's the terrain look like? Oh, there's a hillside. There's a ditch over there. There's a thing over there. There's a ravine between us and the enemy. And if he doesn't make a call, I'm not going to tell him what the call should be. I will give him, maybe pimp him with some information. Hey, sir, what's a call? What do you think about that ravine behind us? You think we can like get in there and outflank the enemy? And then he'll look. He'll think about it. And then he'll make a call. Maybe it's what I want him to do. Maybe he saw something I didn't see. Maybe he makes a stupid call and takes us the wrong direction. Like takes us downhill instead of uphill. And then I'm like, of course, I turn to the training cadre and say, okay, make this suck. And so, but it's through training and repetition and stress inoculation and, you know, always focusing on the basics. Everything we do is built on a fucking solid foundation of basics. So we focus on the basics. Everybody wants to be sexy. Everybody wants to do like complicated, weird shit. We don't do that. We like when you try to do complicated shit, you're going to fail. Yeah. Because you don't have a foundation. You build a house on fucking sand, it's going to fall off the fucking cliff. It's going to wash into the ocean. You have to have a solid foundation. So we focus on that foundation, keeping everything very simple. And the more simple it is, the deeper, stronger your foundation, then you can start adding complexity. Nighttime, night vision goggles, lasers, communicating with lasers, how you move the laser, how you talk back and forth, how you can communicate non-verbally across the battlefield at night with 40 or 60 dudes out there and make shit happen. But it all comes back to training and it all comes back to mastering the basics. That was a very long-winded answer to answer your question.
No, but it's actually awesome. I mean, there's so many life lessons in there. I mean, just for real life too. But it sounds like part of it is you're literally putting people into situations where they're going to fail intentionally.
Absolutely.
So that they learn to fail in a stressful but safe environment. So when they're in the real situation, they're not going to fail. They're gonna kick ass.
Right. And often, and so we have a saying that says, the more you sweat in training, the less you bleed in combat.
Yeah.
It's absolutely true. Now, the enemy does get a vote.
Right.
Enemy always gets a vote. I mean, we've lost guys because the enemy got fucking lucky.
Yeah.
They weren't lucky. They were good. They actually outmaneuvered us with IEDs or whatever. But sometimes that does come from, we were complacent. We were so fucking good at what we do. We dropped our guard. Enemy took advantage of it. So
is there a way or a system you use to try to not become complacent in terms of that stuff?
Coming right back to where we started with the question of like building artificial hardship.
Yeah.
Like if you keep doing that over and over and over, you don't have time to be complacent. You're always, you think about, I used to say like you're always always climbing to the top of a mountain.
Mm-hmm.
You get to the top of that mountain. Oh, I got here. This is how most people think. Okay, I got here. Now what? There's like, I achieved the whatever, everything.
Mm-hmm.
There's 16,000 more peaks that you need to go climb.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually have changed that to you live your life on an escalator, and the escalator is always going down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always like
If
this
you
analogy from
stop walking, if you stop climbing, you're going to start going down. If you stop going up that escalator, you're going down.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't go fast enough up that escalator, you're going to go down.
Mm-hmm.
So that's complacency. You stop walking, you start going slow, you're going down.
Yeah.
You're always going backwards. So you always have to be climbing. You always have to be going faster than the escalator. Doesn't mean the escalator has to be going fast down.
Right.
It can be going slow. I remember, so in Buds, in the second phase, we do a 7-mile swim.
Mm-hmm.
And we started in Imperial Beach in the south, and we swam north. And I snuck a Snickers bar in my wetsuit, in a Ziploc bag, and my dive buddy and I, about 2 hours into the swim, I like broke it out. The water was so cold that it was solid, even though it was like against the heat of my body. And we stopped swimming to eat the Snickers bar, and there was this, we call it the elephant cage on the beach. This big, like, it was used to be like an old like Intel like listing. I don't really know what, something top secret area.
Mm-hmm.
And we call it the elephant cage. And I remember we were north of the elephant cage when we started. And when we finished eating, we were south of the elephant cage. So the current was going from north to south. We were swimming against the current. And so we, like, the entire class, all but like 4 swim pair, failed that swim. I know we were about 200 yards from the finish line when they were like, get out, because so many people were hyping out, because the water was so cold. I remember I had lost all fine motor movement, all fine, I was like, I'm like arm out, like when you swim side stroke, you're supposed to, arms are in the water, only your face comes out of the water, all this other stuff, facing one another. And I remember I was like, arm out of the water. And my dive buddy was getting mad at me. I'm like, fuck it, dude. I don't care. I'm just barely making it over here. And I wasn't going to be like, I'm hyping out. I'm not going to quit.
Right.
They just said, go to the beach. You failed to swim. 6 or 7 hours in, 8 hours into the swim. Like you're not, there are safety measures in place. But, what I mean by that is, we stopped swimming and we were going backwards. Just like that escalator. Right. You stop climbing it, you're going to go down.
Yep.
So we had to make up that time. We had to, like, just remember, life is always about that escalator is going down.
Yeah.
Always going down.
If you're not growing in a way, you're dying, kind of a thought
right.
process.
Tim Grover, and I think the book Winning, he talks about there's
no such thing as standing still. Yeah.
He says, winning always starts in hell. You always have to go back to hell in order to and work your way out of it. So he's like, that world championship or the NBA, whatever championship, I think he was talking about Kobe Bryant. As soon as the game is over, there's a bus waiting for you outside and it says back to hell, because you got to go back to hell to start learning how to win again. Everyone thinks like you get to that peak. Now what? Right. I'm good enough. You become complacent. If you live on top of that mountain is sinking into the water.
So, when it comes to actual combat, then what's already happened is you've trained so much that it's automatic. Your brain doesn't have time to think. You're able to focus and be calmer because you've gone 100%. Through so much hardship already. Yeah. You've gone through hell. Yeah. Now it's game day. But but lives are on the line in this game, and you're just able to just calm down, get into a place, and just focus on the task at hand. Right.
And then we'll go and deploy for 6 or 8 months, and when we come back and we start a new training cycle, we always come back to the basics, and we always practice the basics again. We can do the most complex operations overseas, climbing buildings at night with 30, 40 pounds of gear, guns, night vision, climbing up, taking over buildings, assault forces going, taking over, doing super complex stuff. But when we come back and we start the training cycle over, we started, we were doing like 30 dudes running into a building, all different directions, covering down gunfights, whatever the thing is. When we come back and we start training close quarters combat again, we start with a center fed room and send 2 guys in with no bullets, just guns. And then we send 4 guys in, and then we get really good at that. And then we change rooms and we change scenarios. Then we bring in paint. Then we go in and we shoot targets with paint, and we get really good at that.
Yeah.
And then we start using real bullets, and we go in using real, and this is weeks,
Mhm.
months
So
before
you
we get
never
back to
stop
actual real
training
bullets.
the basics. You always
Never
have to go
stop
back.
training. Yeah,
I think that's a fascinating analogy for life because we get comfortable with stuff. We get used to doing stuff. We think we already know that.
right.
And then we don't learn it again.
We
And
always want to be sexy. Oh,
Yeah.
what is the new fancy thing I did? The
got to
new
go
fancy
all the way back
move,
to the
new
beginning and
whatever.
just retrain that sometimes
Correct.
because that's the foundation it all rests on.
Right.
That's awesome. That's
It's
a
all
really,
like, it doesn't matter if business, leadership, mindset, doing hard things.
Mhm.
The basics will win every single time. I mean, if you just think about a boxer, they're, you go back to, they're in the 10th or 12th round of the fight and they're just getting tired. The guy who just starts throwing fucking haymakers is the guy that's probably going to get knocked out.
Yep.
The other guy stays in nice and tight. His punches are not nearly as hard as they should be or could be, but he stays in nice and tight. He throws really crisp, clean punches because that was what he has drilled over and over and over. He went back to the basics and he wins.
So part of this mentality you're developing too is you're not chasing the thing that's exciting because you don't care about exciting. You care about
Super
getting the job
fucking
done.
boring. Yeah.
Right. Boring basics, focus
Wins
on
every time. Yeah.
And what you also said to me the other day, I thought was pretty incredible too. Just the idea that you never want a fair fight in what you
Ever.
do. You
I'm never
always
looking
stack
for a
the
fair
deck
fight.
in
Yeah.
absolutely every possible way so that when you deal with it, you're getting the outcome that's required.
Correct. Again, enemy always has they
Yeah.
always get a vote. And so I want their vote to count as little as possible.
Right.
I want to stack the deck so far in my advantage if I go and I'm getting in a fight that I know I'm going to win.
So things go wrong. How do you adjust?
We've trained for it already. We brief it. So we make a plan. We brief the plan.
Mm-hmm.
We always discuss contingencies. What if, what if,
Mhm.
what if? Most people never talk about what if
Mm-hmm.
in business, in leadership, in like, what if we try this new thing? Well, let's just do it. There's some value in let's just do it and see if it works or not.
Right. Right.
But we need to like think about all the things that could or could not happen. When we do training, we do a risk assessment.
Mm-hmm.
We try to mitigate as much risk as possible. We take into consideration how much sleep guys have had, hydration, like what's the communication like, what's the medical plan, what is the visibility like, what's the weather, what's like
Mhm.
all these things are in place. Do we have a dedicated corpsman? Do we have like what's the life flight, like do we like call them and let them know we're doing the training? We put so many things in place to mitigate risk, or to, if something happens, we already know
Mm-hmm.
what if we already know, what's going to happen or how we're going to deal with that situation. Just like, I talked about the other day when I had to cut away my parachute,
Mm-hmm.
and in the brief for jumping out of airplanes, we
Mhm.
always brief and we practice. We go through, like, we practice like where, like, the cutaway procedures are, the ripcord and the cutaway for your reserve is here. You first cut away your main parachute and you throw that away.
Mhm.
And then you pull your reserve ripcord and you throw that away.
Mhm.
We physically go through that. Guys are on the airplane and they're going through all the procedures of like pulling the ripcord. Okay, that goes bad. Then we practice, like physically practice
Mm-hmm.
going through the cutaway procedures in case you have a bad parachute or something weird happens or whatever. We're always practicing. We're always thinking about what if, and then practicing those contingencies.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What if it goes bad? Then if then, like kind of, old
Does that
basic.
allow you to have a more flexible mentality when things go wrong, or is it actually just you're just so prepared that you already kind of know the different answers?
It gives you it gives you, yeah, I think you said it. It does give you the preparation because you already thought about what if.
Uh-huh.
So if I get shot, I'm going to render first aid to myself. I'm not going to wait. I'm not going to say, corpsman, medic, give it.
Mhm.
Like, I'm going to start stopping the bleeding. I'm not going to be in the gunfight, probably.
Right.
I'm going to be stopping the bleeding.
Right.
Put a tourniquet on there, and then maybe get back in the gunfight if that's what is required of me or whatever. I remember in Afghanistan, we had a young officer. He was a fucking stud. And we're moving through this village, and he steps on an IED and he blows his leg off.
Mm-hmm.
He still led. He like fucking put a tourniquet on his own leg, and he still was, big gunfight. He was still directing troops around the battlefield, even though he was missing a fucking leg. And, but it was the training. It was I have a fucking job to do, and I'm not going to stop doing the job until the job is done. And then, eventually we gave him morphine and, he became, not mission capable anymore.
Right.
Because that was the right thing to do. And so we relieved him of command and, the next guy took over and, did a good job of, winning the gunfight, getting him evacuated and out of there. But it was the training. It was the what if, the stress inoculation that allowed him to continue to fucking lead and fight after his leg was fucking
That
blown
is
off.
such an incredible story. It's crazy. And so I'm thinking through this, and so in that moment, I mean, the training has put you in a place where you could be in the right frame of mind, but in that moment he had to choose, he had to be in that frame of mind.
Right.
Because he had choices. He didn't have to do that, but he chose to do it because he had practiced it and he was able to put himself into a certain, identity at the time. He knew where he was focused. It's, his focus was a certain place, the mission, right?
Right.
You told me this other day, mission, team, then, your own stuff, right? And so he was able to, even in the most insane pain, chaos, ridiculous situation, he didn't lose that focus. That's where his brain wasn't on, oh, my leg hurts. His brain was, I got to get this done so I can take care of my people.
Right.
And get the task done. That's such an incredible thing, but it shows you really what people are capable in the human mind. And also, like, all of this stuff that you guys do is really to prepare your minds so that when it does hit the fan, your mind can act in a way that's going to be the most useful, so that you can actually, just like you're preparing your body, like you said, it's just as much psychological.
Right.
But it's an incredible thing to hear these real life stories of how, regardless of how insane the circumstance is, you can use your brain in a way that's really useful, that is profound, because of how you've prepared for it, because of the training you've put yourself through mentally.
Right. You can push through so much more than you actually think you can. But
Yeah.
you can only know that you can do that if you go out and you do these artificially hard things. They're not artificially hard. They're really hard. But they're, I forgot the term I used earlier. Whatever, artificial hardship.
Artificial hardship, yeah.
And by continuing to do that, you're never going to fall into this sort of complacency, because you're always raising the bar on, like, how hard can I push myself?
Yeah.
How far can I push myself? But it's always a decision. Are you willing to do that or not?
Mm-hmm.
And I think, one of the things that I talked about this the other day was, a friend of mine, her husband has a brain tumor, and she's going out and she's doing these really hard things, preparing herself physically, mentally, and emotionally for when her husband does die.
Mm-hmm.
He's lived 4 years longer than what he was supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's just going out there and pushing, and she's going out there and grinding, and she's going out there and preparing herself for that life event that is going to happen. She knows it's going to happen. They don't know when it's going to happen. Have been given both the gift and curse of time.
Mm-hmm.
She knows it's going to happen. She's preparing herself for that.
Yeah.
We're all going to have hardship in our life. Deaths, divorces, lose jobs,
so
whatever it is.
Your advice is literally prepare now, so that when it happens, you are in a place that you can manage your mind.
Because you never know what that
hardship,
that real hardship life thing that is going to come swinging in.
Yep.
And punch you right in the gut.
Do you have any questions you like that help push you or keep you in the right mentality for things in life?
I don't know if I have any questions. I think I just have to continue to tell myself that you're never good enough.
It's a story. Yeah, gotcha.
You need to go harder. You need to go longer. You got more work to do. You're not done.
Mm-hmm.
That's when complacency sets in. We all are, our DNA tells us to take the path of least resistance.
Right.
Our DNA tells us to go, go the easy route.
Yeah.
Go all the way back to hunter-gatherers. The misconception is, we're warriors and we go out and we hunt saber-tooth tigers and all that other stuff. Well, you know what? Maybe yes, but if we find a fucking beehive with, gallons of honey, we're gonna go get those gallons of honey and we're gonna stuff ourselves and we're gonna be fat and lazy and disgusting. And then when those calories are gone, then we're gonna go hunt again.
Yeah.
What we should be doing is, like, save the honey and then go hunting, so we have more of an abundance.
Yep.
But we're just wired to go eat the honey and we're good enough.
Yeah.
That instant gratification.
That good is the enemy of great concept.
Right.
Too. You just get complacent because it's
Right.
it's not. you're not in pain, you're not in failure, but you're also not great. You're not at your best.
Right.
So you're in between, comfortably in between, you know.
Good is mediocre.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
So
not fucking awesome.
that's part of what it is for you, is you just want to literally be fucking awesome. That's
Right.
it. That's your
Right.
that's your driving force.
And you know why? Because I grew up mediocre, like a fucking mediocre mindset. I was like, who am I? I suck at everything. Whatever. I still say I suck at everything. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I know I don't.
Right.
But it's also like, it keeps me humble also.
Yeah.
I know I'm really fucking good at some things.
Yeah.
But I'm always trying to get better at those things.
Yeah.
You know, you heard me speak the other day. I'm pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
When I started, I was pretty good. I was not as good as I am now.
Right.
And in a year, I'm going to be even better.
Yep.
And in 5 years, I'm going to be really fucking good, but still not good enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Always getting better, always raising the bar. Like, never, there's one of my coaches has a saying, he's like, never peak, never hit that peak. Like, he's like, I want to be, the day that I die, I want to have, bench the heaviest, bench press I've ever done in my life, the heaviest squat day, the heaviest whatever. And like, I want to hit all of my PRs the day that I die. Like, that's the day that I'm good enough.
That's hilarious. Yeah. So let me ask you this. I'm sure a lot of people want to know this. So you're go. You're pushing yourself. You're putting yourself in artificial hardship. What do you do to relax? What do you do to have fun?
I am a go guy. I'm also an introvert. Most people are like, you're fucking kidding me. You're not a fucking introvert. I'm like, a total introvert.
You hide it well.
What you've seen this week of me being out there is I've been working on that. I know for me to be successful in what I do today, I have to be big and bold. I'm the super, like, I'll go sit in the corner. I'll go like sit in my room. I don't need to be around people. I don't get energized. I do actually. I'm actually turning more extroverted depending on the scenario, but I'm still an introvert. I can have extroverted qualities, but it's something I've had to work on. I have a lot of limiting beliefs. I have a lot of imposter syndrome. I had to get over that. We talked about last night, and I've talked about this to all of my coaching clients, because they're all high performers and they all have imposter syndrome, and they're brave enough to say they do. And I'm like, who doesn't have imposter syndrome? Imposters.
Yeah,
like,
I thought that was a great line.
Like,
we were chatting about that last night.
Holy shit! What? Are you kidding me? So
Yeah.
it gives you permission to have imposter syndrome, but don't let it hold you back. I've had imposter syndrome my whole life.
Yeah.
I still have it today, but I don't let it stop me. And I had to do that self work to get there. Like, people are like, "Oh, you're a Navy SEAL. You're not scared of anything. You are the way you are. You see me. This wasn't 4 years ago. You didn't see this. Wasn't sitting in this chair."
So if you're gonna boil it down, if somebody wants to be fucking awesome, as you say, what's your distilled way to say how do you bring that to the world every day?
How I do it?
What advice would you give to them if you were
I would
training
tell
them?
them to never be good enough. Never be good enough. Never. We have a saying in the SEAL teams that says you have to earn your trident every day. It's a gold shiny pin that we wear on our chest. And, and we also have a saying that says the only easy day was yesterday. Today, you have to show up and you have to do the work better than you did it yesterday. No one cares how awesome you were yesterday. No one cares today. I don't care how awesome I was yesterday. I can have moments of like, I did a pretty good job. But just like I talked about speaking, like, I was pretty good when there was room for improvement. Everyone's like, dude, you did a fucking great job. That was awesome. Like, whatever. I never knew this was your first time to ever speak. If you could, I spoke, like I said the other day, I spoke 2 years ago, gave the same presentation 2.5 years ago, the same presentation I gave you guys, 2 days ago. Exact same presentation. Exact same message. Exact same slides. Nothing has changed. The presentation, the quality of the presentation has changed. Like, every time I get on stage and I present, I don't care if it's like 5 people in the room or 5,000 people. I'm always trying to be better. I'm going to deliver as much energy and as much quality to 5 people as I am to 5,000 people. I always want it to be 0.0001% better.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what it is. Like maybe like this part of maybe how I start, maybe how I do the man in the arena, how I do whatever the thing is, how I start it, how I close it, how I do any piece of it. I'm always trying to make it better.
Yep.
And I could say I'm good enough right now. I'm pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm not good enough. I will never be good enough. And if you wake up
Understood.
every day and you say you have that as your mindset, I need to fucking get better today. I don't care what it is. Just get better at something every single day.
That's awesome.
Don't get worse. Always get better. Don't
Yeah.
be the same. The same is getting worse. The same as you're on that escalator going down.
Yep.
Always get better.
So as we wrap up here, first off, I want to thank you for doing this. I really appreciate you. I enjoy your friendship and just who you are as a human being. You're an incredible human being. I did want to give you a quick second to talk about the 22-0 because I think that's a really important
Sure.
concept and what's going on. Can you share that with people? How can they get involved? What can they do to help? How can they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So our mission at Naked Warrior Recovery is 22-0. 22 veterans take their lives every single day. My dad is one of those 22. So it's a very personal mission for me. There are many nonprofits out there that, lean towards that. One of them is the organization called 22-0. They do a lot of mindset, mental work. I really like what they do. I like their mission. And it's funny, it started accidentally. The guy was just trying to help himself. And he's like, oh, let me share this with someone else and someone else and someone else, because it worked for me and it worked for them. And now it's growing. And now it's like this giant nonprofit. It's not a giant nonprofit yet. That's, one of many. I would say if you see someone who is struggling, someone who is contemplating suicide, and you can see the signs if you're paying attention, have that conversation with them. Like, hey, how's everything really going? And then try to get them help.
Yeah.
I have never had the thoughts of taking my own life because I feel like I've had the thoughts of taking other people's lives. That's a different story. And we don't need to go there. I'm not going to do that, but, my phone is, I have a ton of friends in here that aren't going to answer the phone anymore. Many through combat and many through taking their own life. Sort of those invisible scars. If you see someone and their behavior changes, and maybe they could be the grumpiest fucking person in the world. And then they show up and they're like super happy and hugging and full of life and whatever. You better check on them. Because what has happened is they just made the decision to take their own life. You wouldn't think it. Like, that doesn't make sense. Like, they're so happy now and full of life and whatever. When their default was being kind of grumpy and gray and under the weather. You better fucking check on them because something is about to happen, because they've just become okay with ending it all.
Yep.
There are so many, like, I had a buddy, where he texted his wife and said, hey, I'm not going to make it home tonight. You should make sure you pick up the kids. She was like, what the fuck? Hold on. She didn't make it to him in time. People will let you know. If you get that call, make the time. Go talk to them. Go be a friend. Go be a sounding board. Go help get them help. And there's lots of resources out there. I don't know them off the top of my head.
Oh yeah.
But 22-0 is one of them. They mostly help veterans and first responders, but they will help anyone.
Yeah. Sounds like it's really important for us to be listening to each other.
100%.
Especially to veterans. And
right. I mean, society's like, mainstream media is trying to turn us on one another. And it's because we're at this place of fucking abundance and opulence, and we are like the fucking world superpower, and we have like, there's this divide of, this gap between like poor and rich. Poor people are pretty fucking well off. When you come, like, everybody has a cell phone, everybody has a nice car, there's a homeless epidemic right now. Even they have a lot of amenities, even though they may not have a house over their head. But if you see people who are struggling, or you see, or they even like kind of mention this, I just want to end it all. Go have that conversation. Go be a friend. Go like help get them help.
Yep.
Because they will let you know. And communication is the number one way to start.
Yeah. Yep. Well, again, I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for your service.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. And on that note, I just want to say, go out there, do the hard thing. Obviously, this pays dividends. This is important for us being the best we can be. But also listen to others, be paying attention, and be there to support each other, because life is hard and you don't always know, what someone's thinking. So once again, as I always say, I think it's really important to remember you don't have to be perfect to contribute, to do great things. So go out there and do something great today.
Thought hacking.
We live in a profound